The neon lights of Seoul's bustling streets cast a chaotic glow over the quiet alley where Seoul Nights, a small but popular diner, tucked itself away. The aroma of sizzling kimchi pancakes and spicy tteokbokki drifted into the night air, mingling with the scent of rain-soaked asphalt. Inside, the lunch crowd had long gone, leaving only a few stragglers nursing their cups of tea. The diner's manager, a middle-aged man with a permanent scowl etched into his face, was lingering near the counter, his eyes sharp, calculating. Across the room, Naomi wiped down the table where a small group of college students had just left. She had worked at the diner for nearly 6 months now, balancing college courses and a part-time job, always quick with a smile despite the undercurrent of tension that seemed to follow her. Naomi, an African-American woman in her early 20s, had moved to South Korea for school, drawn to the vibrancy of Seoul and the excitement of a city that never truly slept. But she quickly learned that working abroad came with challenges she hadn't anticipated. Tonight was one of those challenges. "Naomi," the manager barked suddenly, his voice cutting through the quiet hum of the diner's neon lights. "You didn't clear that last table properly. I'll have to start checking every table myself if you keep slacking off." Naomi, already tense from a long shift, turned to face him. Her patience was fraying. "Sir, I cleaned it. You can check, but I already wiped everything down. Please stop micromanaging every little thing." His eyes narrowed. "Excuse me? Are you questioning me?" Before the argument could escalate further, the bell above the diner's door jingled softly. Naomi turned toward the sound, and her breath caught. Standing there, tall and imposing even in casual clothes, was a man whose presence demanded attention. He was striking, older, with dark eyes that seemed to pierce through the ordinary, and a calm authority that made the diner feel suddenly smaller. Even from a distance, Naomi felt a strange mix of fear and intrigue. The man didn't immediately speak. Instead, his gaze flicked to the manager, who straightened, suddenly aware that he was in the presence of someone far more dangerous than himself. The manager stammered, attempting a forced smile, but the tension in the air was palpable. Then Naomi realized something else. This man wasn't just any stranger. He was the father of one of the regulars who frequented the diner. Or rather, he was known around Seoul's underground circles as someone not to be crossed, a respected and feared figure, quietly commanding loyalty and fear in equal measure. In the tabloids, he was described as the Korean mafia boss, though in person, the aura he exuded made the term feel both inadequate and terrifyingly precise. "What's going on here?" His voice was low, calm, but there was an undeniable edge to it. The manager, flustered, straightened his tie nervously. "Sir, I was just..." She wasn't following instructions. Naomi stepped forward, her heart hammering. She had no idea who this man was, but she knew she couldn't let the manager keep talking down to her, not with someone so imposing watching. "Sir," she said, keeping her voice steady, "I cleaned the table. There's no reason for him to treat me this way." For a heartbeat, the diner was silent. Then the manager's face twisted with anger. "How dare you?" Naomi acted on instinct. She placed a hand on his arm, stopping him from stepping closer. "Please, don't touch me," she said firmly. The mafia boss's dark eyes sharpened, and the entire diner seemed to hold its breath. Naomi had no idea why, but she felt like she was standing at the edge of a precipice, and the man in front of her was deciding whether she would fall. And then she noticed him. Her boss's daughter, a young woman with long black hair and delicate features, standing behind the counter, trembling slightly. She had apparently come to check on her father's diner, unaware that a confrontation was brewing. "Step back," Naomi told the manager again, not moving her hand from his arm. "She's just visiting. Don't make this worse." The mafia boss moved silently to the counter, his presence commanding. "Is that true?" he asked his daughter. She nodded quickly, her eyes wide with fear and relief. "Yes, father. I just came by to see the diner, and..." He was being mean to the waitress. The manager's face drained of color. He opened his mouth, but the boss held up a hand, a simple gesture that froze him in place. Naomi took a small step back, heart still racing, as the man's gaze shifted toward her. He studied her for a moment, and Naomi felt as though he was reading her entire life story in one glance. Thank you for standing up for her, he said quietly, almost a murmur, but the weight in his voice made the words feel monumental. Naomi blinked, caught off guard. I just didn't want her to be treated that way. He nodded slightly, as if that explained everything. Then he turned back to the manager. You will apologize, he said simply, and the words carried the kind of weight that brooked no argument. The manager's hands shook as he stammered out a reluctant apology, eyes avoiding the boss's dark, piercing gaze. Naomi could feel the tension in the diner slowly dissipate, replaced by a strange, charged silence that hummed like electricity. After the apology, the boss turned back to Naomi. You have courage, he said. Not many would do what you just did. Naomi, still trembling slightly, nodded. I just didn't think it was right. His lips curved into the faintest smile. Good. That is rare. That is admirable. Something unspoken passed between them in that moment, an acknowledgment that went beyond words. Naomi didn't fully understand what she felt, but she knew her life had shifted in some fundamental way. The boss glanced at his daughter, who gave him a small, nervous smile, then back to Naomi. Stay, he said simply. We will talk. Naomi felt a flutter of nerves mixed with something else, curiosity, and a strange, unexpected thrill. She nodded, unsure why, but trusting the instinct that told her this was something important. The diner felt smaller, quieter now, the neon lights flickering against the walls as if waiting for the next move. Outside, the streets of Seoul pulsed with life, unaware of the tiny drama unfolding within the walls of a small diner tucked away in a quiet alley. Naomi didn't know what would come next. But as she looked at the man, the mafia boss who had somehow entered her life without warning, she knew that her world was about to change. And whether she was ready or not, she was about to step into a story that neither of them could have predicted. After the manager slunk away, muttering under his breath, the mafia boss leaned against the counter, his dark eyes fixed on Naomi. For a moment, there was nothing but quiet, the hum of the neon lights, the faint scent of fried food, and the distant rumble of Seoul traffic outside. Naomi's heart was still racing, and she forced herself to breathe slowly, hoping she didn't look as flustered as she felt. Sit, he said finally, gesturing to one of the small tables near the window. Naomi hesitated for a fraction of a second, then obeyed. The boss followed, pulling out a chair for himself, though he didn't sit fully, more like he was half-perched, ready to move if necessary. His daughter, Mina, hovered nearby, fidgeting with her hands. Naomi noticed how tense she looked, clearly unused to her father's more direct approach. Yet there was a softness in her eyes as they lingered on Naomi, a quiet gratitude that spoke louder than words. You defended her, the boss said, addressing Naomi again. His voice was calm but carried a weight that made the statement feel like more than a simple observation. Not everyone would have done that. Naomi felt her cheeks warm. I just couldn't stand by and watch him treat her like that. No one deserves that. He studied her for a long moment, as if measuring every word, every gesture. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. It wasn't a full smile, more like a twitch at the corner of his lips, but it made his usually intimidating features seem almost human. Courage, he said again. It's a rare thing. And yet, here you are. Naomi felt a strange mix of nervousness and something else, an odd flutter that made her stomach twist. She wasn't sure why a man she barely knew would evoke such a reaction, but the intensity in his gaze made her pulse quicken. Mina, finally finding her courage, spoke up. Father, Naomi didn't just defend me. She didn't hesitate. She stepped in even when she could have stayed quiet. The boss looked at his daughter and then back at Naomi. I see that, he said. His tone softened slightly, though there was still an unmistakable authority in his voice. You are not afraid to do what is right, even when it is difficult. That is rare in this world. Naomi's fingers twisted nervously in her lap. I just believe in treating people with respect, she said quietly. He leaned back slightly, regarding her with an unreadable expression. Respect, he repeated. Yes, that is a good trait. And yet, in this city, respect can also make one a target. Are you aware of what you've done? Naomi frowned. I don't understand. You defended my daughter, he said simply. In doing so, you've entered a world that most people don't see. One where actions have consequences far beyond what is visible. The weight of his words sank in. Naomi swallowed hard. She had come to Seoul thinking she could navigate the city and her studies, work at a part-time job, and live a relatively ordinary life. Now, in one moment, she realized she had brushed against something far larger and far more dangerous than she could have imagined. Mina's eyes softened. "Father, she didn't mean." "I know," he interrupted gently, though his gaze remained fixed on Naomi. "I am not upset with her. Far from it. In fact," he paused, the faintest hint of a smile tugging at his lips, "I am impressed." Naomi's stomach did a little flip at his words. "Impressed," she echoed, uncertain whether to feel relief or alarm. "Impressed," he confirmed. "You acted with bravery, integrity, and without fear. That is admirable and rare." Naomi blinked, feeling a strange warmth creeping up her neck. There was something in his eyes, a quiet intensity, that made her feel seen, truly seen, in a way that few people ever had. She wasn't sure why it mattered so much that he approved, but it did. Mina, noticing the shift in her father's demeanor, smiled softly. "You don't often say things like that," she murmured, almost to herself. The boss's gaze flicked to his daughter briefly before returning to Naomi. "I speak only when necessary," he said. "And when words are needed, they should be meaningful." Naomi nodded, unsure what to say next. She felt a strange mix of awe and apprehension. This man, so powerful, so feared, was now talking to her as though she were someone important. It was unnerving, but also flattering. For a moment, they all sat in silence, the hum of the diner filling the gaps between their words. Naomi noticed how Mina kept glancing at her, the gratitude in her eyes almost tangible. It made her heart warm. Finally, the boss stood, his movements deliberate and commanding. "You have my respect," he said to Naomi. "But know this, courage can draw attention, and attention can be dangerous. Stay vigilant." Naomi nodded, feeling both honored and nervous. "I will," she said quietly. He gave a small nod, then turned to Mina. "Come, daughter. We will leave now." Mina hesitated, glancing at Naomi, then gave a small wave. Naomi returned it, feeling a pang of longing she couldn't quite explain. She didn't know what it was about the brief encounter, but she felt a connection, fragile and fleeting, that tugged at her heart. As they left the diner, Naomi's gaze followed them to the door. The mafia boss moved with an effortless grace, protective and commanding, while Mina walked just slightly behind him, safe yet clearly cared for. Naomi felt an unexpected ache in her chest, a wish that the night could stretch on just a little longer. She turned back to the counter, her mind racing. The diner felt emptier now, the neon lights harsh in comparison to the warmth that had filled the room moments ago. She leaned against the counter, running a hand through her hair, trying to process everything. Somewhere deep inside, Naomi felt that nothing in her life would ever be the same again. She had stepped into a world she didn't fully understand, a world of power, danger, and something else she couldn't quite name. And yet, for the first time in a long while, she felt alive in a way she hadn't expected. She didn't know what would come next, but she knew one thing: her life had just taken a turn she could never have predicted. And somehow, she felt that this turn was only the beginning of something extraordinary. The next morning, Naomi woke to the usual hum of Seoul outside her small apartment window, but something about the day felt different. The events at the diner replayed in her mind like a film she couldn't pause. The manager's angry face, the mafia boss's intense gaze, and Mina's small, grateful smile. She shook her head, trying to dismiss the lingering flutter in her chest, but it wouldn't go away. She arrived at the diner earlier than usual, hoping to have some quiet time before the lunch crowd. The place smelled of freshly brewed coffee and the faint remnants of kimchi pancakes from the night before. Naomi busied herself with wiping down counters and arranging utensils, her thoughts constantly drifting back to the previous evening. Just as she finished setting a stack of plates, the diner door jingled. Naomi looked up to see Mina stepping in, her presence like a small burst of sunlight in the dim diner. Naomi's heart gave an involuntary skip. "Good morning," Mina said softly, offering a shy smile. "Morning," Naomi replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "You came in early." "I wanted to see how things were," Mina admitted. She glanced around nervously. "And I wanted to thank you again." Naomi waved her hand dismissively. "You don't need to thank me. I just did what I thought was right." Mina hesitated, then pulled a small box from her bag. "I brought you something. Just a little token of thanks." Naomi raised an eyebrow. "You didn't have to do that. It's just—" "I felt like I should," Mina said, her cheeks faintly pink. "For standing up for me yesterday." Naomi accepted the box, surprised at the small gesture. Inside was a delicate bracelet, simple yet elegant, with a small charm in the shape of a crescent moon. Naomi felt an unexpected warmth as she held it in her hands. "It's beautiful," she said softly. "Thank you, Mina." Mina smiled, the tension around her shoulders easing. "I'm glad you like it. I wasn't sure if it would be okay." Naomi shook her head. "It's perfect." She fastened it around her wrist, feeling a strange connection to the young woman who had given it to her. The moment was interrupted by the diner's bell jingling again. Naomi turned to see her manager standing there, looking hesitant and uneasy. Naomi's heart sank a little, but she reminded herself that last night's confrontation had already set the tone. "Naomi," he said awkwardly. "About yesterday. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that." Naomi studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Thank you. I appreciate the apology." The manager looked relieved but still uneasy, and Naomi returned to her tasks, her thoughts drifting back to Mina. Something about the girl intrigued her quiet strength, her subtle vulnerability, and the way she seemed to light up a room without even trying. As the lunch crowd began to trickle in, Naomi found herself stealing glances at Mina, who had stayed nearby, helping with small tasks and observing the diner's rhythm. There was a comfortable silence between them, punctuated only by the clatter of dishes and the murmur of customers. Naomi felt a strange sense of anticipation, as if something unspoken was developing between them. Later, as the lunch rush died down, Mina leaned against the counter, watching Naomi wipe down a table. "I was thinking," she said hesitantly, "maybe you could come over for dinner sometime. Just casual, no pressure. I think it would be nice to spend time together outside the diner." Naomi blinked, caught off guard. Her heart thudded in her chest, a mix of surprise and excitement. I'd like that," she admitted, a small smile forming on her lips. Mina's face lit up, her eyes sparkling with relief. "Really? That's great." She bit her lip, as if holding back her own nerves. "I'll ask my father if it's okay." "He trusts you, Naomi. I think he'd want to make sure it's safe." Naomi felt a surge of curiosity and a hint of amusement. "Safe?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. Mina laughed softly. "Well, he can be very protective. He just wants to make sure nothing bad happens to people he cares about." Naomi nodded, understanding the unspoken weight behind those words. "I get it," she said. "I'd appreciate that. It means a lot." Later that evening, Naomi found herself walking toward Mina's apartment. The streets of Seoul were alive with light and motion, but her thoughts were focused entirely on what awaited her. When Mina opened the door, her father was there, seated in a chair, watching them with a calm but intense gaze. "Good evening," he said quietly, his dark eyes assessing Naomi with that same piercing intensity from the diner. Naomi felt a familiar flutter in her chest, a mix of nerves and intrigue. "Good evening, sir," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Mina stepped aside. "I told you, father. Naomi is coming for dinner. Just us. No trouble." The boss studied Naomi for a long moment, then nodded. "Very well," he said. "I trust you." Naomi felt a wave of relief and surprise. "Thank you," she said softly. Mina led Naomi to the small dining table, set neatly with a few simple dishes. The atmosphere was warm and intimate, with soft lighting casting gentle shadows across the room. As they ate, Naomi and Mina began to talk more freely, sharing stories about their lives, their dreams, and the small absurdities of daily life in Seoul. Naomi was struck by how easy it felt to talk to Mina, how effortlessly they connected despite the vast differences in their backgrounds. There was a sincerity in Mina's laughter, a warmth in her smile that drew Naomi in. At one point, Mina reached across the table, lightly brushing Naomi's hand. Naomi's breath caught, her heart skipping a beat. "You're really brave, you know," Mina said softly. "Not just for standing up for me, but for everything. You make me feel like I can be brave too." Naomi felt an unexpected warmth spread through her chest. I'm glad," she whispered, meeting Mina's gaze. The moment lingered, heavy with unspoken feelings, and Naomi realized that something significant was beginning between them, something that neither time nor circumstance could easily dismiss. As the evening wore on, Naomi noticed the subtle glances of the mafia boss from across the room. He said little, but his presence was unmistakable, a quiet, protective force that seemed to hover around them. Naomi didn't know exactly what it meant, but she felt a strange sense of safety, as if the invisible threads of loyalty and power were being woven around her and Mina. When the night finally ended, Naomi left the apartment with a lingering sense of anticipation. Something had shifted, not just between her and Mina, but in the rhythm of her life itself. The city that had once felt overwhelming now seemed alive with possibility, and Naomi knew that the story unfolding around her was only just beginning. As she walked home under the neon glow of Seoul streets, Naomi felt a flutter of excitement in her chest. She didn't know what the future held, but she was certain of one thing. Her life had intersected with something extraordinary, and she was ready to follow wherever it might lead. The days that followed were a delicate dance of routines and small moments that made Naomi's heart race more than any lecture or shift at the diner ever had. Seoul was as busy as ever, but Naomi found herself counting the hours until she could see Mina again. Even the smallest interaction, the way Mina's eyes crinkled when she laughed, the way she reached for a stray strand of hair, left an imprint on Naomi's mind. One evening, as Naomi was finishing her shift, Mina appeared at the door once again, carrying a small bag of snacks. "Hey," she said softly, a smile tugging at her lips. "I thought maybe we could have a little study session together. Or just hang out." Naomi's chest tightened with excitement. "I'd love that," she said, pushing aside the last dishes. They settled at a quiet table in the diner after closing, the neon lights outside casting a soft, colorful glow over the interior. Mina pulled out a notebook, but it was clear from the way she kept glancing at Naomi that studying wasn't the main plan. "You've really changed the way I see this city," Mina admitted, opening her notebook but not really writing. "Before, it all felt structured, strict, maybe even suffocating. But being around you makes it feel alive, in a way I never noticed before." Naomi felt a warmth spread through her chest. "I feel the same way," she said honestly. "I came here thinking I'd just get through college, maybe have a part-time job. But meeting you, it makes everything feel different." Mina smiled shyly. "I'm glad." The conversation drifted, easy and natural, from favorite movies to the best hidden cafes in Seoul. Naomi laughed more in that hour than she had in weeks. And yet, beneath the laughter, there was an unspoken tension, a thread of awareness that the world outside the diner wasn't entirely safe. Mina's father's presence loomed in Naomi's mind, a constant reminder that their lives were intertwined with a world Naomi had only glimpsed. As the evening wound down, Mina glanced at the door nervously. "I should probably head back," she murmured, though neither of them moved. Naomi reached out instinctively, touching Mina's hand gently. "I had a really good time tonight," she said softly. Mina's eyes met hers, and for a moment, the space between them seemed charged with something unspoken. "Me too," she whispered. Then, with a small smile, she pulled her hand back and slipped out the door, leaving Naomi with a lingering warmth and a racing heart. The following weekend, Naomi received an unexpected message. Mina's father wanted to meet her. The wording was formal, direct, and left no room for misinterpretation. Naomi's stomach twisted with nerves. She had no idea what he wanted, but she knew better than to ignore such an invitation. When she arrived at the location, a quiet, upscale cafe away from the main streets, she saw him waiting. He was seated at a table near the window, his dark eyes scanning the room until they landed on her. He nodded slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement. "Naomi," he said as she approached. "Sit." She did, her heart pounding in her chest. "I wanted to talk to you," he began, his tone calm but deliberate. "About your relationship with my daughter." Naomi swallowed, unsure how to respond. "Sir, I care about Mina, but—" He held up a hand, silencing her. "I am not here to scold. I am here to understand. You've shown courage and integrity, qualities I value highly. That is why I am interested in you." Naomi blinked. "Interested in me?" "Yes," he said simply. "Mina has spoken highly of you, and I want to ensure she is safe, and that you are capable of navigating the life that comes with being close to her. You defended her once, but life will not always be as simple as a diner dispute." Naomi's heart thudded in her chest. I understand. I don't want to put her in danger, sir. I promise I'll do my best." He studied her for a long moment, as if measuring her sincerity. "Good," he finally said. "Courage is commendable, but wisdom is necessary. I trust that you understand this." Naomi nodded, feeling both relieved and slightly intimidated. "I do," she said firmly. The boss gave a slight nod, then leaned back in his chair. "I will allow you to continue seeing my daughter. But know this, nothing is without consequence. The city is not always kind, and those who care for her must be vigilant." Naomi's stomach tightened, but she met his gaze. "I will be vigilant," she promised. When the meeting ended, Naomi walked back into the night, her thoughts racing. She had faced a man whose reputation alone could silence entire rooms, and yet she had stood her ground. More importantly, she realized how much she cared for Mina, how much she wanted to protect her, and how much she wanted to explore the delicate, thrilling connection that was growing between them. Over the next few days, Naomi and Mina continued to grow closer. Small gestures, a shared cup of coffee, a light touch on the arm, a glance that lingered a little too long, began to build a silent language between them. Seoul, with all its noise and chaos, seemed to fade whenever they were together. One evening, Mina led Naomi to a quiet rooftop, overlooking the city's shimmering lights. The wind was cool, carrying the faint scent of cherry blossoms even out of season. They stood side by side, shoulders nearly touching, and for a long moment, neither spoke. "This is beautiful," Naomi whispered, gazing at the city below. Mina nodded. "I come here when I need to think. I wanted to share it with you." Naomi felt her heart swell. "I'm glad you did." Mina turned to her, eyes soft and earnest. "Naomi, I like you. More than just a friend." Naomi's chest tightened, and for a moment, she felt like she could barely breathe. I like you too," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Mina's smile was radiant, and she reached out, taking Naomi's hand in hers. The warmth of her touch sent a thrill through Naomi, a promise of connection, trust, and something more. As they stood there, the city lights twinkling below them, Naomi realized that her life had changed completely. She had stepped into a world she hadn't known existed, one of power, danger, and loyalty, but also one of unexpected love and connection. And as she looked at Mina, hand in hand, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them together. Somewhere in the shadows of the city, the mafia boss watched, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Naomi had proven herself brave and trustworthy. And perhaps, in time, she would prove herself more than that. Someone worthy of standing beside his daughter in a world that demanded vigilance, courage, and heart. A few weeks passed, and Naomi had settled into a rhythm she hadn't anticipated. She still worked at the diner, still navigated college, but her life now included stolen moments with Mina, quiet walks through narrow streets, shared meals in hidden cafes, and long conversations that stretched into the night. Each encounter deepened their connection, each glance and touch building a language only they understood. But with closeness came risk. Seoul, for all its vibrancy, was never entirely safe, especially for those connected to people with power. Naomi knew that indirectly, through the occasional whispered warning from Mina and the careful, watchful eyes of the mafia boss, who had started letting Naomi see his presence as a shield rather than a threat. One evening, Naomi was walking Mina home from the diner. The streets were quieter than usual, the neon glow reflecting in puddles from a light drizzle earlier. They talked softly, laughing at a joke only they found funny, when Naomi noticed a shadow slipping from an alley nearby. Something about the movement felt deliberate, tense. "Mina," Naomi murmured, slowing her pace. "Do you feel that?" Mina's eyes narrowed. "Yes, someone's following us." Naomi's heart jumped. She had faced challenges before, but this felt different. The instinct to protect Mina surged through her. "Stay close to me," she whispered. The shadow moved faster, and a man stepped onto the street, blocking their path. His expression was smug, confident. "Well, well," he said. "What do we have here?" A little foreign girl and her pretty companion. Naomi's pulse raced. "Who are you?" she demanded, stepping slightly in front of Mina. The man smirked. "Someone who's been watching. You think you can just walk these streets freely?" Mina's hand trembled slightly as she gripped Naomi's arm. "Naomi, we need to." Before she could finish, a sleek black car rolled up beside them. The doors opened, and the mafia boss stepped out, flanked by two silent, imposing men. His presence was immediate and commanding, and the street seemed to grow colder as his gaze fixed on the stranger. "You've made a mistake," the boss said quietly, but the weight behind his words made the man flinch. The stranger tried to maintain bravado. "And who's going to stop me?" "You." The boss took a step forward, his hand resting near his side. "You will regret testing me," he said calmly. The two men flanking him moved subtly, positioning themselves with silent precision. Naomi felt her knees go weak, fear mingling with awe. She had known danger was part of this world, but seeing it so close made her realize the reality of her choice to care for Mina. The stranger looked around, realizing the odds were against him. Without another word, he retreated, disappearing into the shadows from whence he came. The tension in the air slowly dissipated, leaving only the rain-soaked streets and the neon reflections. The mafia boss turned to Naomi and Mina, his gaze softening slightly. "Are you unharmed?" "We're fine," Naomi said, her voice shaky but steady. She glanced at Mina, who nodded silently, still clutching Naomi's hand. The boss studied them both for a long moment. "Good. But know this," he said, his voice carrying that same calm authority that left no room for argument. "Being close to those you care about brings danger. You must always remain vigilant." Naomi nodded, understanding the gravity of his warning. I will," she said softly. The boss gave a subtle nod. "Very well. You may return home. I will ensure the streets are safe for the night." As the car pulled away, Naomi and Mina stood in the quiet, the rain-slicked streets shimmering around them. Naomi felt the tension ebb, replaced by a mixture of relief and exhilaration. She glanced at Mina, whose face reflected the same mix. "I guess being together isn't without risks," Naomi said, attempting a light tone, though her heart still raced. Mina laughed softly, resting her head briefly against Naomi's shoulder. "No, but it's worth it," she said. Naomi felt a warmth spread through her chest, stronger than ever. "It is," she agreed. Over the next few weeks, life settled into a fragile balance. Naomi continued to work at the diner, attending college during the day and spending evenings with Mina. The mafia boss's protective presence remained subtle but undeniable, a silent reassurance that, despite the dangers, Naomi and Mina could explore their bond. One quiet evening, they found themselves once again on the rooftop where they had shared their first admission of feelings. The city stretched endlessly beneath them, lights twinkling like stars in the sprawling urban galaxy. Naomi turned to Mina, taking her hands in hers. "I never imagined life could be like this," she said softly. "A city of chaos, danger, and yet, it feels so real." Mina smiled, eyes shining with emotion. "I know. It's unexpected, but I wouldn't change it for anything." They leaned into each other, foreheads touching briefly, sharing a quiet moment that seemed to stretch outside of time. Naomi felt the weight of the past weeks, the confrontation at the diner, the protective watch of Mina's father, the dangers of the streets, and realized how far she had come. "I care about you," Naomi whispered, her voice steady despite the rapid beat of her heart. Mina's smile deepened. "And I care about you," she said. The city below seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them, bound by trust, courage, and a growing undeniable love. From the shadows, the mafia boss observed quietly, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Naomi had proven herself brave, loyal, and capable. And more importantly, she had brought a light into Mina's life that even he could not deny. The future remained uncertain, danger was never far in their world, but for the first time, Naomi felt ready to face it. With Mina by her side, she understood that love could be as formidable as fear, and as enduring as loyalty. And in that quiet rooftop moment, under the endless lights of Seoul, Naomi knew that no matter what challenges awaited, they would face them together, united, courageous, and unafraid.